What's up guys, welcome back to my tech corner. In today's video, I'll be reviewing the Corsair H100x Elite 240mm all-in-one cooler. So let's get straight into it. Starting with the unboxing now, we can see that there's plenty of information on the box and it's neatly wrapped in plastic. I'm definitely keeping this box though. Opening it up, reveals the warranty guide and no user manual. Well, that's because Corsair saved money here by making you scan a QR code to read the manual. If you bought this all-in-one, then you definitely have a phone. Everything looks nice and neat here, definitely well packaged. First things I pulled out were the SP RGB Elite fans, next the actual all-in-one cooler itself, next the retention hardware for Intel and AMD CPUs, and finally an ARGB to Corsair proprietary connector and a very odd looking PWM splitter. Removing the all-in-one from the plastic, the product is looking very good. No scratches, dents, or punctures in the tubing. The pump head has the Intel mounting brackets pre-installed, as well as some pre-installed thermal paste protected by a plastic cover. One of the first things I noticed is there isn't a big mess of cables coming out of the pump unit. This is really good for organizing and making clean builds. It also doesn't have a hardware controller included either, so like a Commander Pro or Core. Another thing that I noticed is the tubing. It's not protected by like a braided weave, it's just the tubing. This looks very close to their much older H60, so Corsair definitely went along their budget here. Taking a look at the fans now, they chose their SP120 RGB Elite fans. They have 8 RGB LEDs and are PWM. They also have a max airflow of 47.7 CFM, have a max static pressure of 1.46, and have a max RPM of 1500. They use their Air Guide technology and are pretty cheap to make and buy. Now, when I saw that they included these fans, I found this as a problem. They're not very good, they don't spin very fast, and static pressure isn't too good for a radiator, but that is just my opinion. Next up, looking at the retention kit for AM4 and AM5 CPUs, included is 4 standoffs and the mounting brackets for the pump unit. Now, I really like the new brackets that they included here. It applies even pressure on each corner, and it honestly looks way better than the older mounting brackets. Next, looking at the retention kit for Intel LGA, these are the CPUs that are compatible. Included is all the standoffs for the compatible CPUs, the Intel mounting brackets for the pump unit, and the adjustable backplate for Intel motherboards. The next bag included 8 radiator mounting screws, 8 long fan screws, 4 thumb nuts, and 8 washers for the radiator mounting screws. Taking a look at the PWM splitter now, it's odd not seeing the housing for the pins. It's really cheaply made, but it gets the job done either way. And finally, looking at the ARGB to Corsair proprietary connector adapter, it's pretty self-explanatory. It allows the all-in-one and fans to have the RGB be controlled by the motherboard. This is good if you don't want to use their hardware controllers or software. It's a single cable that has one end as the basic 3-pin ARGB, and another end that splits into 3 Corsair connectors. It's interesting seeing Corsair do something like this, as they normally don't do this to their products. Now, if you connect the cooler to a Corsair iCUE hardware controller, so like a Commander Core or Commander Core XT, you'll see that the way that this cooler gets set up in iCUE is very interesting. Instead of having its own setup like the Capellix or RGB Elite, it takes the same setup as an LL-RGB fan. The pump head has 4 RGB LEDs in the middle and 12 RGB LEDs on the outer ring. The max pump speed is 2033 RPM, and it is very quiet. It's controlled through 3-pin DC, and it's also the way that it gets powered, so if it's not plugged in it won't work. Now, something I really like is the fact that the Corsair logo on the pump head can be rotated, just in case you have to mount your cooler in a certain way. But something that caught my eye here is the integrated light spreader. It doesn't separate lights from each LED, so they end up dipping into each other. It makes the colors look off and weird unless you use one set lighting effect. The lights are also very dim, and not as bright as some of their all-in-one coolers. Now, to test this all-in-one cooler, I'll be stressing it using 3 different CPUs. A Ryzen 7 1700, a Ryzen 7 2700X, and finally a Ryzen 7 5700X. I'll be testing all 3 of them stock, motherboard overclock, and my own overclock. This will stress the cooler and show us what it can really do. It has a 240mm radiator, so it should put up a pretty good fight. If it fails some of the tests, that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It's just not meant for that kind of CPU. As I have strong opinions about the fans that were included here, I'll be testing the cooler with the included SP120 RGB Elites, and I'll also be doing another test with Corsair's more powerful ML120s. They have a higher CFM, static pressure, and RPM rating, so I'll be seeing if this makes a difference. And finally, to make matters fair, I'll be using the same thermal paste for all 3 CPUs. I'll be applying the same amount, spreading it across the IHS evenly for each CPU, so sadly the pre-applied thermal paste has to go. So let's go ahead and get on to testing. I'll be displaying the stats on the screens, so you might have to pause to read the results.
But the day will come when we can stop the falling rain and the falling leaves. Feel the memories of everything and all that we forgot. We don't need to shout, we can see it on the leaves.
Now those were some results. All of the tests were done fairly, and this is how the cooler performed. Not bad for some low TDP CPUs or clocks, but around the more higher TDP CPUs and clocks, this cooler definitely struggles. This is a good budget option if you want to push your CPU just a little bit, or if you have a low TDP CPU that when overclocked still does okay. So like a Ryzen 5 1600 or Ryzen 7 1700. So this product is definitely a thumbs up for me. Thank you guys so much for watching and your support. If you liked the video, go ahead and leave a like, dislike if you didn't, comment down below what you guys thought about this cooler, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll go ahead and see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.